This is Tremendous here, and this is my first ever book review. It is Flesh Eaters, Shadow of Mitrak, and it is by Rachel Ford, Sarah Ford, and Judah Ford. And this was actually an audiobook, and it was narrated by Barbara Rich. So, real quick breakdown how I plan on doing these book reviews is I'm going to kind of go over it, but the first part of the review will be spoiler free. I'm going to give generalities. I'm going to tell you what I think about it. And then after I'm done doing all that, I am going to go ahead and do a little countdown. You'll see a little graphic on the screen, 3, 2, 1, probably an explosion, maybe some music or some wise ass remark. And then afterwards, I will get into the spoiler section of the video. So if you don't want spoilers, you don't want me to ruin what happens in this particular book, then once you see the countdown and the explosion, go ahead and stop the video. Otherwise, hey, you're on your own. I can't be held responsible. So anyway, Flesh Eaters, Shadows of Mitrak was book one of a series. So it is a self-published book. I believe it was published in January or February this year. I got it on Audible. I paid $4.87 for it. So right off the bat, it's a like just under 3 hour long audiobook. So it's well worth the money. It's a great value, and it's. So, if you're looking for something on the cheap, this is a good start. This is a really good place to start. She has a lot of other books out. I don't remember if Sarah and Judah Ford are authors on her other books as well, but I do recall seeing the Ford name, but just one on her other books. Not that that's really here or there. Anyway, this book is basically about it's super sci-fi, really, really far off in the future in a galaxy, somewhat, well, not really too far away, but it's a group of military individuals, and with all the expected jargon and energy weapons and armor that you would hope to see in a sci-fi novel, and they get sent on a classified mission. It's very cloak and dagger, which I like. I really do. And they're sent to go and search and destroy, basically. There's a little added twist that there is a civilian group of reporters. There's like a cameraman and some investigative journalists type people with them, which is kind of fun. And they're sent in onto this planet that used to be, this lush and fertile world, and some horrible accident occurred. Well, some horrible attack, it wasn't an accident, occurred, and the planet is now basically Thunderdome. And there's all sorts of crazy races and different species, and they're all just shooting the hell out of each other, which is cool. It's a very cool concept. It's a very cool idea. They've got suitably cool names: Sunshine, Night, Scribe, Doc, Undertaker. Oh yeah. It's like I said, you really, really get, if you're looking for the sci-fi fix, this one's gonna scratch that itch. But the narration by Miss Rich, I don't know, Barbara Rich. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. With a self-published book, I don't expect like Will Wheaton level clarity when it comes to that. That voice acting is not Hollywood grade, but it isn't bad, and you can really hear the enthusiasm with the narrator. She's into the character, she's into the story. It's a little confusing. I think she might have like maybe she's trying to do some sort of accent or something. I'm not 100% on that. Obviously, I've never talked to these people, but it is a little jarring sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Every once in a while, I would be listening to it, and I'd be like, I can't tell what she's trying to do. If maybe she has a little bit of a speech impediment or something, I'm not sure. No judgment, but it does throw off the flow of the story occasionally, but it does not ruin the story. Not at all. Not even a little bit. Overall, it's a short book. It is part of a greater series. This is book one. There are more books to this. However, it is interesting. It does keep your attention. It really does. There are a few parts where it's a shorter book, so you're not going to get the meat. You know what I mean? If you're really looking to sink your teeth into like this is going to come out wrong, but like a rich world or a rich universe, you're not going to get that with this book. However, what you do get is a fun little for lack of a better way to put it, side adventure. It's enjoyable. You know what I mean? You're sitting there listening to it, and while you have a lot of questions about what's going on, who these races are, who these people are, and stuff like that, it doesn't ruin the story, but I think instead of paying attention to things like the food sources they were using and yeah, how they tie up one of their boots when they're nervous, there were some things where it's like don't focus on those particular things. Give me more meat. Make me care more about the characters and the mission and the universe. Just my opinion, but that hurt it a little bit. I think when you're writing a story this short, you really don't have time to do the flowery things. You kind of have to stick to the meat of the story and make me care, make me understand. There's a lot of different characters in this book, a lot, probably close to a dozen to 15 different quote unquote main characters, and it's a little. I'm not sure because I have not read the in print book. As far as I know, this book is available in audio and ebook only. I did not see a paperback version, but it's all on Amazon, and it was. So maybe there's just something lost in translation between the written copy and the narrator, but I'm not going to put that on either side. I'm going to go with the. I'm going to grade it on the what's it called, merits of the story, and I just. It switches perspective a lot. 1 minute you're in the captain's perspective, and you're seeing what she's thinking. Tall, and she's a badass. She really is. She's confident. She knows what she's doing. This isn't her first rodeo. And then next thing you know, you're in the photographer's point of view, and you're seeing him take pictures. But it's so like there's no transition. It's just bam, bam, bam. It'd be like if all of a sudden I was talking with a female voice and you guys were talking about cat videos or something. It's very jarring, and it's difficult to follow sometimes, especially when the story is being read to you. Maybe it would be different in print, but I don't think so. So that is that kind of hurt a little bit while I was listening to the story. I wish she had just given me one person's perspective, or no more than three, and that there were better transitions between the characters when that happened, because it did make things hard to follow, especially when the action really kicked into high gear. I started getting very confused. But other than that, it's a good story. There is some twist. There's a lot of action. It is a little clean. Everything is a little convenient, I guess. There's a certain twist where it's just it's too much. How do I describe this without spoiling anything? There's a twist where they were too misleading leading up to the twist, in my opinion. And so when the twist actually did happen, you were like, what? No, I don't think so. And I will get into it in the spoiler section of the review, but for those of you that don't want me to spoil it, again, go and read the book, go and listen to the book, and it's not going to cost you much at all. And come on back and hit me up in the comment section or shoot me an email. We will go back and forth on this. I love debating. It'd be a wonderful conversation, I have no doubt. But other than that, overall, I would give this book a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I say that, number one, based off the audiobook, not the ebook. Number one, the narrator did some things with her voice that I didn't appreciate. One character in particular, Scribe, she talks a lot like this, and it's hard to understand and take her seriously because she's the hacker of the group. Ha ha! And it's okay. Please stop doing that. And there was a more bovine character called Doc, and he was always talking like this, and it's like I don't like that. So this is, again, my opinion. There's also you kind of get thrown into the story right off the bat with the first character that you're introduced to, Knight. His civilian wife, had been killed, and it's a little disorienting because you don't know why you should care. I mean, yeah, it sucks that this person I'm just meeting has lost his wife and they're at the funeral and everything like that. And that sucks, but I don't know these people. I don't feel for them. It's hard for me to generate any kind of empathy for people or for characters that I don't care about. I mean, I don't know about or anything like that. So, I wish that the story had spent more time in character development because even by the very end of the book, I didn't really know who any of the characters were other than what I'd seen in the story, which was really just a crazy amount of battles on this planet that they went to for a search and destroy mission. That being said, it didn't ruin the story for me. It was just kind of aggravating. I really want to know more about what the technology is, what the people are, what the different species are, what makes them different, things like that. And a lot of it felt glossed over, and I didn't appreciate that. Another thing is the authors use a lot of, not a lot, but they use some military jargon. And it isn't, if you aren't familiar with, like, for example, what scuttlebutt is, you have no idea what that means. So if you're reading the book or you're listening to the audiobook, you would have to, if you were so inclined, you would have to actually stop and look it up real quick in order to figure it out. Now, I have a military background, so I understood a lot of it, but a lot of things weren't explained. However, there is one part early in the book called a sugar pepper. She one of the characters offers one of the other characters a sugar pepper. I feel so cheated that the authors didn't explain what a sugar pepper was because that sounds amazing. I'm sorry. I'm actually a little pissed that I never got that explanation. So maybe it's in one of the later books, and that a lot of that could be developed later on and further on in the series. But again, I have to base everything off the merits of the first book because that's all I've listened to so far. So that is one of the reasons that I have to heavily dock this book because it really aggravated me that I've got this series book, this book one that is supposed to make me really, really care about the characters and the story and the world and make me feel like I'm a part of it, or at least I understand my part in it or the character's part in it. And by the end of book one, I was very confused. I was like, I don't know what's going on exactly. So that ate at my soul a little bit. However, on the positive side, it was very engaging. It caught my attention. It kept my attention. I found I listen to audiobooks sometimes when I'm driving because radio's dead to me. And I found myself wanting to stay in the car even after I'd reached my destination so I could listen to what happened next. So if you're looking to be engaged in this book, in this story, you're going to be engaged. It's not something that you're going to be like, wow, I just wasted $5. No. Is it super satisfying and hits all the right spots? Mostly, but not everything. And the spots that it does miss hurt, and they hurt bad. It's frustrating. So that is why I have to lower it from, even 4 stars to 3.5 because it was rushed. I mean, Game of Thrones season 8, episode 6 rushed. So it maybe I'm still a little bitter because Game of Thrones is still pretty fresh, but damn it, I want more. When I'm reading a novel like this, especially when it's book one and you're trying to describe the world, make me give a shit about your world. I need you to describe things better, especially when you're wasting time, in my opinion, wasting time describing soy bars and how to tie shoes and self-doubt about what the government is currently doing with these classified missions and civilian opinion on civilian deaths. It was very odd what they decided to focus their limited story on at times. But as negative as that sounds, I still really did enjoy the story. I enjoyed where it was going. And by the end of the book, I felt invested. I felt like, you know what? I want to know what happens to him now. I want to know what happens to the rest of the team. To the civilians, to the world. It ends on a pretty good cliffhanger. I won't say it was unpredictable, but I didn't call it out. I definitely didn't have it pegged at all. But I had a feeling. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. I was glad to see that it was that feeling and that it was Close, I'll say. But yeah, so all in all, 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is just slightly above average. I see 3 as average, 4 is very good, and 5 is outstanding. 2 is I didn't like it, and 1 is avoid at all costs. Just so that we're all clear. But yeah. If you're looking for a good, quick story that'll get you invested in the overall world that the Fords have put out there, it's not a bad read. It's not a bad listen. I have not read it. I got the audiobook. So that will do it for the spoiler-free version of the review. I'm going to hit the countdown. There's going to be a spoiler alert, and if you continue after that point, I'm going to go into detail about what I liked and disliked about the book using specific examples. So here's the countdown. All right, you're still here, so you're well aware that spoilers for this book are on their way. So the book starts off, and you're in the viewpoint of this guy Knight, and he's some sort of big, beefy. I think bovid is the word that's used to describe him. Like sub race of humans or whatever. It's a little confusing because, again, like I said, they don't really describe the different races or the different factions or different. It seems to be different flavors of humanity. But anyway, you start off, and the book starts off, and you're at the funeral for Knight's wife. She died due to some terrorist activity. So he's upset, he's a little bitter, and he's looking for some revenge. Then, like I said before, it's kind of jarring. You jump between different characters. The CO shows up in the middle of the funeral, which is really twisted. Trust me, they wouldn't do that. But whatever, okay. So they do that. The CO shows up to the funeral, offers some really, really surface condolences, and then says, I got another mission for you, and it's super classified. And he's like, all right, I guess I'm in, because, what the hell else he's got to do? He's going to bury his wife and then move on from there. But he's like, well, you can't know where you're going or what you're doing until you get there. And then it turns out that it's not him that even finds out any of this stuff. Knight finds out way afterwards, just before the captain gets killed. Again, I said spoilers, so don't be mad at me. The captain, Tall, who's in charge, gets the search and destroy mission and gets known about or told about all this, which is great. But she, of course, has this big team, like of 8 or 9 people. There's Sunshine, there's Scribe, there's Knight, there's Undertaker, Doc, and then there's the civilians. There's like Lens and a couple others where it's just like they're there. If they did have names, I have no idea what they were because, again, there was just so much to pay attention to in such a small amount of time that I had trouble keeping up with everything. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I am not splitting atoms for a living. So maybe I missed something. Maybe it was well described and it just went over my head. Feel free to read or listen to the book yourself. Come back and blast me in the comments. I will happily eat crow. It does not hurt my feelings to be called out, so don't hesitate to do so. Anyway, they go off on this mission, and the planet they're going to is the Mitrak place or whatnot. And of course, it's all terrorists. They're crazy bad guys. They got predators' teeth because they're flesh eaters, so their teeth are all sharp and creepy, and they're all messed up because they live on this wasteland planet. But it's a weapons facility, or they go there thinking it's a weapons facility, and they get down there, and of course they get blowed up. They get shot at. They don't die. The first combat scene, they're getting shot at by a few people, and they're running back and forth, and it starts doing this weird thing where it jumps from perspective to perspective without any transitions, so that really confused me. So one minute I'm in Knight's perception, the next minute I'm listening to Tall's perception, next minute I'm all of a sudden in one of the civilians' Lens's perception, and I'm getting all these different perceptions without any transition or any real anything to go off of, and it's jarring. It's difficult to follow, or at least it was for me. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, they're getting shot at. I want to know what's going on. And of course, they got the cool energy weapons. So it's, pew, pew, pew. And they're all running, and they go inside of this beat up shelter or whatever. And the bad guys are shooting through the house, and they take cover in the house, and they kind of go down in this hallway, and it's like 3 bad guys. They were shooting through the walls of the house a minute ago, but then they decide, fuck that, we're going to go in and do the hand-to-hand thing. So they go inside the house and get gunned down. And I was like, all right, that was a little clean. That was a little gimme, but whatever, sometimes shit happens, all right? And, the bad guys aren't competent. But then the one of the bad guy or one of the guys, I think it's Knight, walks up to the three bad guys they just killed, looks down and recognizes one of the bad guys as some sort of kingpin terrorist, some guy that survived a whole bunch of crazy attacks by the Empire, which is who the terrorists are fighting against, and he's supposed to be some badass. He went down in one shot by the captain as he came around a corner of a hallway, a narrow hallway with two of his buddies, and they all just got gunned down. So that ate at me a little bit, although it was pretty cool because then Knight like empties his gun into his corpse, like "fuck you, pal." I thought that was funny. I enjoyed that scene, but it was, like I said, it's a little clean with the combat. But again, I didn't really expect a real detailed or in-depth combat because it's a shorter book. They didn't really have time for that. Author's choice. I'm not trying to fault it. I'm just trying to say what my issue with it was. So then later on, they're going deeper into the compound. They get attacked again. They go deeper onto the planet. They go into a compound. They get attacked again, and they lose one of their guys. And it's like an afterthought. It's like, oh no, Artreyu went down, and you're just like, damn, this is one of your team. And it's like an afterthought. The photographer notices it and is like, he's really getting into the fact that, like, the guy is dying. You can see the horror on his face. He's taking pictures as this guy's dying. As he's taking pictures, the guy gets shot some more, and he's like, yeah, this would look great on MTV Raps or whatever it is. And it's like, dude, I mean, wow. So the camera guy, he's taking all these pictures, and then all of a sudden, and this guy, you got to understand, the description and the mentality of the camera guy, Lens is his name, he's like sympathetic, but he's not. He's about as close to a sociopath as the characters get. But I'm in this for the pictures, blah blah blah. And then while he's hiding behind this concrete pillar or whatever, it's described as a bullet explodes in the concrete next to his head. He screams, he falls over, and then the captain, Tall, because they're taking a lot of incoming fire, notices that his vital signs went down. She saw this bullet explode by his head, in the concrete, which should have hurt him, sure, but not killed him. And honestly, a seasoned officer would know that, but instead of checking on him, she just checks her equipment, realizes that he's flatlined, and just says, well, nothing we can do about that. Let's go! And so they all fall back. They go into this other facility. They get away from the bad guys, which, again, really, really easy the way they run away from the bad guys. And as they are patching up their wounds, because some people took some shots, Doc takes some to the shoulder, Undertaker takes some damage, a couple of them are bleeding out. One guy, he's shot in the stomach a few times, and the doctor is like gonna give him the morphine drip of doom, and he's like, no, save it for someone else. And then the captain goes and talks him into, assisted suicide, which I get, he was done anyway. So they say goodbye to that. But here's one of the problems that I had with the book as well, with the audio section of it anyway. The narrator, I think she was trying to crack her voice as Tall, the captain, is saying goodbye and injecting the individual with the medicine that's going to put him to sleep and let him die peacefully. But the way it came off, and I actually rewound it a couple of times to listen to this to make sure that I wasn't wrong, it almost sounds like she's laughing. It's funny, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a sad moment, and the narrator, it sounded like she was laughing. The narrator does a pretty good job. Again, I'm not expecting Will Wheaton levels of narration here, especially with a self-published book, but at the same time, come on, narrator. You got an emotional scene where she's putting down one of her teammates. You can't let it sound like you're laughing. I'm sorry. It's just that's some cold narration. So anyway, they get away. They find the secret bunker area that they got to go to search and destroy and find this weapon. And all of a sudden, they come under attack again by a whole bunch of terrorists that have found their location and some super soldier that is just ripping through them. And quite literally, like out of the 8 to 10 team members that are left, like 4 or 5 of them just get blasted, kind of like as a side note. Like she's watching them drop on her screen, and these are people that she's been talking to and stuff like that, and you're supposed to like maybe starting to bond with, maybe starting to feel something for at this point in the story, and they're just gone, just bam, 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 bam. Like George R. Martin was even looking at it like, what just happened? Why did you kill so many people? It just I wasn't ready for it, and I'm not saying it was bad. I just feel like their deaths were so glossed over and so quick. It was like they were NPCs. Don't just it just threw me off. That's all. It doesn't mean that there's anything bad about it. It was jarring. And so they fall back. They're falling back further and further, trying to get away from all these terrorists and bad guys. They do a pretty good job fighting back, all things considered, but they were woefully underprepared for this. And this is the part of the book where they stop again to kind of get their bearings, let the people that are injured rest. And that's when we get like a whole bunch of descriptive stuff about how they're eating soy bars, which is their rations and stuff like that. And one guy's boot came unlaced, and he's trying to lace it back up, and he can't quite get it because it came undone from the actual boot itself. And the guy literally has to tell him to try using the eyelet holes. And that's a line. Try using the eyelet holes. It works better. With a book this short, that's part of a bigger series, you just, in my opinion, you don't have time for that. So don't give me this weird, soy bar and boot lacing conversation that doesn't add to the story. It's just filler in a book that doesn't need filler. Keep with the meat. If you're not going to write the book long enough to go off on the frivolous stuff, then stick to the meat. Just my opinion. That's what I would have listened for, and well, it's my review, so I can be a dick like that. Anyway, so the guy, they get done with all that, and they start to move out again when the captain eventually figures out she's probably not going to make it. So she kind of tells Knight, who is the other main character of the book, that their mission is not search and destroy, it's search and recover. They're looking for some super weapon that could destroy everything, and they don't want the enemies to have it. And it's super classified, nobody can know about it, but she tells Knight. Knight, who is, as far as I can tell, a lifelong military member, disagrees with her a little bit and then follows orders because he's a good soldier, which I can respect, and then immediately proceeds to tell everybody the classified version of this of their mission as soon as the captain is killed by the assassin that is coming to get them. Yes, the captain figures out that the assassin is using some sort of stealth technology and some higher version of technology, which they may or may not be doing. I'm not really sure because while the main characters that we know and are trying to love are saying that the technology that this individual is using is superior to theirs. He's invisible to them. He can shut off their comms and their weapons, and he's just blowing through everything real quick and real easy. Is using some sort of superior technology. When you get the assassin's perspective of everything, he's not doing anything of the sort. Oh, I wish my technology was that good. He says that, he thinks that, and it confuses me a little bit. Another thing that confuses me a lot is there's a scene where the captain is about to die. She's not about to die. She sent the rest of her people forward. She's kept a couple of them with her, but she sent Knight with the information and the rest of the civilians forward to go and recover the weapon because that's priority one, while she hangs back with a couple of her soldiers to try to stop this assassin, or at least buy Knight time to get away, right? So Knight shuts off his comms and everything like that, and he goes running away. She sets up this laser grid thing, and it really gets into detail about how this laser grid is analog. It's not got no Wi-Fi. It's got no wireless capabilities, so the assassin can't reach it that way. He can't shut it down. He's got to get past it some other way, and there is no other way for him to get past it. If he tries to, he'll die. It will kill him. The only way to turn it off is with a toggle switch, and if he does something like that, it'll detonate, or they'll see him and they'll shoot him up, so there's no way he can get through it. It even goes so far as to say that the whole mechanism is inside of this super sturdy box that's super reinforced, and that even if he had shot it or blown it up, it would never ever be destroyed. In order to destroy it, I believe it says he would have to take it apart atom by atom, and he didn't have the time or the tech with him to do something like that. So the only other option he would have is to completely go around the tunnels of this facility that they're in to try to cut them off but it would take him a long time to do that, right? So it goes into all that detail. It says all that stuff about how this laser trap that the captain put up was really smart. The assassin actually respects her a little bit about it. And then the next scene, it's from the captain's perspective, Tall's perspective. A grenade goes bouncing down the hallway and blows them all up, and the assassin's there. And they're trying to shoot the assassin, but they can't because they're all stunned. And the assassin has turned off their weapons via Wi-Fi, and he's just dispatching. He dispatches both of her allies, whose names I'm sure they told me, but it just wasn't that important to remember them because they get gunned down. They're all dead. The captain, furious and trying to, get this assassin, pulls her knife, stabs him in the shoulder, which goes through his armor and everything like that, if he's even wearing any. I honestly don't remember. But it screws up his invisibility or his cloaking, or maybe he's not invisible or cloaked, and it's just all through their screens because they are wearing armor. It's very confusing. But she figures out it's the cameraman, the civilian cameraman that came with them, Lenz, the guy that she thought died because a bullet went and blew up the wall next to her. So she's like, Lenz, what are you doing? Why are you attacking us? What's going on? Lenz puts one in her chest. She continues asking him questions. He continues to put bullets into her, and then she died. She gets a message off tonight saying it was Lenz. Turn off your comms, turn off everything. He does that, and then she dies. She gets blown away. So one of the main characters dies. It's a little weird, and I'm still trying to figure out how he got past the laser grid. I'm going to listen to the book again. Maybe I missed something, but my first read through, which is always the most honest one, is what I'm basing this review off of, and so that confused the shit out of me. He went through all that, the author went through all that time to talk about this trap and this laser barrier thing that she put up, and he circumvented it with a stun grenade, and it was no problem whatsoever. Like, how did you just get past it? I'm confused. Maybe I missed something. Feel free to go read or listen to the book, come back to the comment section, and blast me. I would love the conversation. I really would. But yeah, so again, self-published book. I expect some continuity errors, especially considering this one had 3 different authors. Maybe it just didn't get proofread. The grammar didn't seem bad. Granted, I wasn't looking at the printed copy. I was listening to it, but I didn't hear anything throughout the narration that made me think that grammar or anything like that was a problem. Anyway, so they end up getting to the end of this facility, Knight and the remaining couple of people that he has with him, and the civilians. The civilians all end up, I think, with the exception of their hacker, I think all of them are dead. Knight survives, and they get to this end where they think the super weapon is at, and it turns out to be some sort of prototype warp engine, basically. Then, of course, the terrorists show up out of nowhere. Ex Machina is Ex Machina. They end up hitting him with another stun grenade, and they take him captive because it is a series book. The next part of it is Knight, the hacker, and a couple of their buddies. Sunshine, I think. I like the nicknames. I do. They're talking to the Mitraki or whatever they are, and they don't like being called that, by the way. They end up bashing a guy in the head with the butt of their rifle. Sunshine keeps mouthing off to him, and he gets hit no less than 3 times in the head by his rifle. And even though he's already been stunned and blown up, and he's exhausted and all that stuff, those 3 blows to the head don't just completely take him out or kill him outright. Butt strokes to the head will mess you up. just FYI, just throwing it out there. But again, not a big deal. Just a little something that jarred me a little bit, and it caught my attention. So I'm going to mention the review. But in the end, it turns out that the planet they're on was Earth, and that the Mitraki are humans. Whether they're original humans or not, I have no idea, but they identify themselves as humans. That's the big twist. Well, the second twist. I guess the first one is Lenz being the assassin, the photographer who everybody thought was dead because some smoke blew up in his face. Anyway, and they're real predatory. They're real violent towards Knight and them. Like I said, Sunshine gets butt stroked no less than 3 times in the head for being mouthy. Don't get me wrong, he had it coming, but I think he should be dead. That many blows to an already addled mind. At the minimum, he's got a severe concussion and is throwing up his lunch of soy bars, which I know a lot about now thanks to the description. But anyway, it ends on that cliffhanger. What's going to happen tonight? What's going to happen to the hacker? And the hacker's the one with the crazy high-pitched voice. And Sunshine, who now is probably drooling. I would Imagine after that, and they're all captured by the humans on Earth, and they've all been betrayed by their government. It's a lot to take in such a short amount of time. I really wish the authors had extended the book a lot further and described the world, described the conflict, described the different races or sub races that were involved in this, because it's very difficult to keep track of everything. I had a hard time. And that all being said, again, still a 3.5 out of 5 in my opinion, but all in all, it was an intriguing book. It caught my attention, and although it did aggravate me a couple of times, I'm not gonna lie, there were quite a few times where I was like, please describe that. Or explain that, or something. I can only, halt my disbelief so much before I need more. But overall, 3.5 out of 5. I did enjoy the story overall. If I wasn't moving on to another book from another author, I would probably buy book 2 just to find out what was going on. I do believe it's available. I don't know for sure, but I think it was. This author has a lot of books out, and the way they label them, the way they title them and everything like that, it's a little confusing. Not bad. I'm not trying to say anything negative, but it requires a little bit more research, which I just haven't gotten around to doing yet because I'm new to this, so sue me. But yes, if you're looking for an ebook or an audible or audiobook that isn't going to really cost you a whole lot and will interest you, catch your attention, this book is not a bad read. It's not a bad listen. The narrator can be a little off-putting sometimes, but all in all, not a bad narrator. I've heard a lot worse. Oh my God. I heard one that was so monotone, I thought I was listening to a computer for about 5 chapters, and then I realized, oh my God, this is a real person. I thought it was Alexa. But yeah, check it out. You know what? If you got $5 to spare, check it out. It's not going to hurt your bank account. You'll skip a value meal, and you'll be entertained for a few hours, which all in all is a much better value than a value meal. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Again, Flesh Eaters, Shadows of Mitrak or whatever, by the Fords, and narrated by Miss Barbara here, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It wasn't legendary or anything like that. It wasn't outstanding, but it was definitely slightly better than average read, however you want to term that. And I think you'll enjoy it. And for $5, what do you got to lose? I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But as always, thanks.